Hi everyone. Today we'll talk about standing out as a non-traditional applicant. I'm Shaundai, pronounced like a day of the week, Friday, Saturday, Shaundai, and I'm a UI engineer at SalesLoft, a software company headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. And I come from a non-traditional background. So in our world, non-traditional just means person who's in a technical role who doesn't have a computer science degree. And that's me. I don't have a CS degree. In fact, I didn't even go to a boot camp. I'm self-taught. And then add to that I spent an entire career, over a decade, in a non-technical field, sales. So when it came time for me to actually apply, this is what my resume looked like, formal education included. As you can see, it's just 12 straight years of business and sales. So it doesn't exactly scream engineer off the page. And I knew that when I went to apply, that there would be dozens of others who had more relevant education and who had more experience than I had. But I also knew that all the work that I had put in to build projects, to watch tutorials, to find and work with a mentor, all of that had gotten me the skills that I needed to make an amazing engineering hire. But I just needed hiring managers and recruiters to be able to see that as well. And I've never been a recruiter myself professionally, but I imagine that looking at tons of resumes a day for one role is a lot like shopping for a rubber duck. And I mean, you have the obvious no's, and those are the ones who just flat out don't meet the baseline criteria, like the rubber frogs that come in. But then you're still left with a number of choices that all kind of look the same. And so in my head, this is what is the hiring manager's biggest problem in looking for an engineer. And I want to help them to make that decision. And so I do that by standing out. I wanted to be this little guy in the middle on the lifesaver. As you can see, he's not perfect. His beak is a little crooked, but he does meet all the baseline criteria for a rubber duck. He's yellow, he's adorable, he's chubby. So you can't rule him out. But in addition to that, he also brings something so unique to the table that I think, okay, this isn't necessarily exactly what I was looking for, but now that I see it, this is what I need. And so that's what I wanted my resume to do. And how I did that was starting with what I knew. At the time, what I knew was sales. Every day I would email, I'd phone call people who'd never heard of me, never heard of my company, to essentially ask for money. And the trickiest part about doing this is standing out against the competition and differentiating myself from all the other noise in my prospects' inboxes. So how's this relevant to applying for jobs? Well, applying for jobs is a form of prospecting. In both cases, you're trying to stand out from the competition to get the attention of someone who's likely never heard of you before, to show enough value so that they want to have a conversation with you, and from there, be able to get them to trust you enough to take a bet on you. Okay, so the skills that I'm going to show you today are it really comes in the format of 3 tips that I've learned that have made me successful in sales, that I found a way to translate into applying for jobs and made me successful in switching careers as well. You don't have to be a salesperson to apply these tips, and you can be at any stage in your engineering career as well to apply them. Do note, though, that these tips will take time because there's a level of customization that goes into each application. So you're not going to use this for every single job that you apply to, just the top 5 or 10 that you really want to get into. There's a common thread between the 3 of these: tell a story and tell your story. So hiring engineers it's an investment, and hiring managers want to feel good about the choice that they make. They don't want to feel like they're taking a chance on you. And there's a level of familiarity that comes with hiring someone with a CS degree. They're like, this is what I've seen in the industry before, and this is what works. So what you're aiming to do is paint the picture, tell your story in a way that makes them say, no, it's not the degree that makes someone a great engineering hire. It's the type of person, along with the skills that they've built, whether that comes from a degree or whether it comes from, say, Codecademy tutorials. Okay? So first tip, show value and show relevance. So it's a little known fact that when I first started in sales, I, for a very short time, sold cars. And the reason why it was such a very short time is because I was terrible at it. So let's say you're a customer and you come onto the lot looking for, say, a minivan. I would literally read every single little bit of that window sticker to you, down to like, this car has anti-lock brakes and it has that little button thing on the side that lets you move your seat back and forth automatically. And people did not care. And I mean, why should they? They don't need me to read the sticker for them. So I wasn't helping them to narrow down their list of options that they had on the lot. When it comes to sending in your resume, let's make sure that you're not me selling cars. Think of your job as the job to help the hiring manager narrow down their list of applicants, okay? Keep in mind that what you also want to do is think of what you have to offer. Think of what they're looking for as it relates to what you have to offer and how it differentiates you from others. So this is critically important because you can bet that most of the other applicants also have the technical skills, okay? So when we're thinking about narrowing down to our pool of options, that only brings us down to the middle of this funnel that you see. So to narrow it down to the bottom, this is where we're thinking about the unique skills that you have to offer that show value and are relevant to the role that you're applying for, okay? So let's talk about how to do that. And the best way is to first learn about the person that you're talking to and learn about the company. So ways to learn about the company, look at the job description. And I don't just mean the bullet points that say the qualifications. I mean that little company culture blurb at the top that talks about what kind of company they are. Look all through the company website. Look at their blog. Look at their social media. Look at the Glassdoor and see what other people who have applied and interviewed for engineering roles are saying. Look at what current engineers are saying. And then learn about the hiring manager. So this requires a little level of stalking on social media, probably, but find out what they're talking about. Have they published anything? Can you read that? What kinds of things are important for them? And then what you'll do once you find out what kinds of things, or you'll make some assumptions on what kinds of things that they're looking for, you're going to translate the unique skills that you have into what they need. So I'll show you an example, and this is how I did it with SalesLoft. I'm a salesperson, right? SalesLoft is a software. SalesLoft builds a software that is sold to salespeople. Perfect. And so this is how I positioned it, okay? SalesLoft has a very good design team that builds out these very detailed specs for the engineers when they go to build a new feature, right? But even so, there are tons of decisions that need to be made in between the lines in order for that product to be a good and functional product. I am uniquely qualified to make good engineering decisions because I know what it's like to be one of our customers. I know what types of UX things our customers are looking for. I know what needs that they have that aren't being met now, and I know which features they have now that they're not using. Okay, so I harped on that in my interviews. So let's take another example of someone who's not me. Let's say that you're an English teacher. Well, you're great at identifying patterns in languages. You're good at facilitating imaginative thinking. You're really good at taking complex concepts and making it easy and digestible to understand for first graders. All of those skills will really come in handy as an engineer. So in every correspondence that you have with the hiring manager, the recruiter, you want to really be harping on the fact that you are different in each of these ways. So these are your little lifesavers, okay? Next tip, build corporate style projects, all right? Another tactic that works really well in sales is creating the picture or painting the story, painting the picture or creating the story of how beautiful life will be with your product in it. Okay, so to take it back to the car salesperson example, these are the sellers who let you take that test drive home overnight. Okay, so you drive it home, your significant other sits on the side, your kids get in the back, your dog gets in the back, you see how it looks in front of your house, your neighbors start turning their heads, everything starts feeling really good. The next day, when it comes time to bring that test drive back to the dealership, there's no way that you're bringing back home that 1943 Buick that you brought in there the day before. You're pretty sold on that new car. And so that's what you're driving home, okay? This is what we want to do with the corporate style projects. This is what we want to do with our resumes. So we want the hiring manager to say, okay, well, Listen, I saw this portfolio this morning and they put a lot of thought into how they'll show the technical skills for this company and how they'll be a good cultural fit for the company, for example. They showed breadth and depth of their skills. And now that I see this project, I really can't imagine my life without this person. I mean, that's kind of dramatic, but really that's the energy that we're going for. Okay, so how do you do this? What does this corporate style project look like? Well, first, it should serve a business purpose. And that's not to say it needs to be exactly aligned with whatever business you're applying to. So for example, if you're applying to Netflix, it doesn't have to be a Netflix clone. It just has to look and function like something that a company would pay you to do. It's also important that you articulate the value of the project. So what problem does it help to solve for the business or for the users? Okay. It should also answer more questions than it raises. And what I mean by that is that if your portfolio is filled with a ton of fun and cute, but very surface level projects, it might leave the hiring manager to think like, okay, did this person just take a bunch of tutorials on random sandwich generators and just pop them into a portfolio? Or, this is kind of neat, but I wonder if they have the skills to do this. So you want to answer all those questions before they have the chance to ask them. So that's where we want to spend time on this project and make sure that it shows the breadth and the depth of the skills that you have, okay, as they relate to the job that you're applying for. All right. Last is having a good README. And READMEs aren't always fun. I always say it feels like a book report, but it's important because you want to convey the thought that went behind the project that you're building. Okay, so some things, and if you ever want to check out my on my GitHub, I have a sample README that you can check out, or kind of like a outline of the book report. But some things that you want to include in your README are what the tech stack was, obviously, what the purpose of the project is from a business perspective. So like I talked about, just showing value and showing that this has a business purpose. I like to put in some reflections. So this is your challenges, the challenges that you faced and the way that you overcame them, or surprises that you came across. And then also how to install the project. I like to include some screenshots in there as well, just to make it nice and pretty. But make sure that you spend a lot of time on that README, okay? And then our last tip is use video. There are two types of video that I mean when I talk about video as it comes to job applications. So the first one is an intro video, and this is like a 2-minute video where you're just saying, this is who I am, this is why I am right for this job now. And then it also showcases your personality. The second type of video is one that I leveraged heavily when I was applying to SalesLoft, which is a project demo. And so this is where you're going through a demo of probably that corporate style project that you built, to talk through from a user's perspective. This is what the project is, okay? You're gonna include a lot of the stuff that you would include in a README, like your tech stack, the different challenges that you came across, but make no mistake, it's not a replacement for a README. You'll also add in context that you wouldn't be able to get if you were just reading the README. For example, if you included a lot of nice little transitions between components, you might want to say, okay, well, when you click this button, I was given a lot of thought to UX, so I put a little smooth transition, so notice that. Or I left the focus states this way so that I can keep an eye out or make things more accessible for people who need it, okay? So those are the two types of video. Now, why is video important? Well, for me, it was an absolute game changer when it came to sales. And then translating it into applying for jobs, I feel like was the key that unlocked everything for me. And the reason is that video turns you from a list of bullet points into a human, all right? Video establishes the human connection between you and the recipient. It makes you more noticeable and more memorable. It makes you more familiar and causes the other person to trust you more. It also helps to convey emotion and context that would otherwise be hard to derive from written text, okay? And then lastly, everyone's sending in their resume. Everyone's sending a link to their portfolio. But you, my friend, you're different. You're non-traditional. And that's why these companies need you. Okay. That's all that I had. If you're looking for me, the beauty of having a unique name is that my handle for everything is just my first name. So if you're looking for me on Twitter, at Shaundai, GitHub at Shaundai, Dev at Shaundai, you get the point. It was great talking with you, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.